Hafiday, Guam, and the Northern Mariana Islands. My name is Tomas Manglona, reporting here in Saipan. Today, we're grateful to be joined by U.S. Congressman Gregorio Kilili Sablan, representing the people of the NMI. Good morning from the NMI, and good evening to you,
Yeah.
Congressman. We know it's you're in D.C. right now. How are you doing?
Good morning, Tomas. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm well. I miss home, but otherwise I'm well. We're blessed with that. But busy as well.
Yeah, and right before we started, you were talking about how you were initially here at home and then had to go back, and then the flights were canceled. So, what's the work looking like there in DC for you?
We're actually very busy. We were for 3 weeks. We had caucus meetings every day. Now we're turning over to committees. Last week I had meetings with the Education and Labor Committee. This week we have two meetings. We had a meeting this morning of all the leadership, the subcommittee chairs, and I as vice chair of natural resources, and we're talking to members tomorrow, all members, Democratic members. And then at the end of the month, later on in the month, we're going to be having a teleconference that Chairman Grijalva and I and the other delegates are invited to join us, teleconference with all the insular areas, with at least one individual who's handling the COVID-19 task force for our, so the committee, we asked them to invite Esther Muñoz to join us in this, just a conversation to find out where everything is going and how well it's going, just like we did in a follow-up to Chairman Grijalva and my letter to FEMA, which followed with a meeting with very fortunate we had the three region heads in a meeting that we had, and we were able to not just talk about the typhoon recovery for the Marianas, the cyclone for American Samoa, the hurricane for the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, and the earthquake. We were also able to talk about COVID-19 issues. So, yeah, we're keeping busy.
Thank you for sharing that. Congressman, now I wanted to shift gears and ask you the briefing you had with FEMA. We saw that letter that you sent on March 31st, stating that the current model show coronavirus cases exceeding local capacity by late this month and peak hospitalization in mid-June. A lot of people, flocked to that information that you posted because it was the first we heard of any model for the NMI really with a date. We've only seen models brought out in Guam. Can you share more information on that briefing or any more recent updates you have with regards to that information? What are you hearing about meeting needs in the NMI, kind of the boots on the ground here on the island?
Yeah, FEMA was able to take some items from the stockpile, the national stockpile, and send it to the Marianas. They're not exactly everything that we need, but they did give us our share. They send those based really on the situation on the ground and of course the population. And so we got that, and then FEMA, in preparation and in anticipation of our peak, built a mobile hospital at the parking lot of CHC. And so they've got, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 6 tents, maybe 4 or 6 tents. And those are like standby mobile hospitals just in case we reach our peak sometime in mid to late May and early June. I hope, it's really, really possible to avoid this. There's one solution to it that's very simple. It's just isolation and social distancing. And we could avoid a peak like that's happening elsewhere throughout the country. Um, so, but we were following up basically on making sure that FEMA doesn't forget that there's work that still needs to be done in the typhoon. And of course, because we were aware that United has stopped flying, we're concerned about that. So FEMA is able to get military air from Guam primarily, and they they're helping us with this machine that's already on Saipan that will do testing. We just got test kits for that as well. We didn't get as many as Guam, but we got some. And then, um, yeah, those kind of things.
All right, and now I wanted to talk about the CARES Act. You released the news recently that $36 million are now available to the Commonwealth government. Also learning yesterday that the U.S. Department of Labor notified the CNMI Department of Labor of the eligibility for the PUA and FPUC. And we know that those numbers right now that we're seeing, the weekly benefit amount for the PUA is $345 per week through December. And then that's in addition for the FPUC, $600 per week for the individuals through July for that program. And so I wanted to ask you, can you shed light on any processes you might know about, and when folks can expect money in their pockets, and possibly any other legislation that you're working on at the national level?
All right. Yeah, we were aware that Congress was going to boost unemployment insurance for the nation. And of course, the Pacific territories don't have unemployment insurance. I tried earlier in my term to get the Commonwealth government to set up an unemployment insurance program, but it went nowhere. So when this happened, we had to figure out a way to do this. And the one advantage I have is that this crisis is like the 2009 financial crisis. It's only worse. And so I learned that how fast legislation develops here and how hard you have to work not to be left behind, and how to get equal access to national programs. So we worked and we said, look, the Commonwealth Department of Labor during Typhoon U2 was able to get unemployment assistance out. As a matter of fact, they left on the table some $8 million that they didn't spend. And so we said, we want to do that, use the Department of Labor's process for this program, and it clicked. And so this one is going to be done this way, like we do with natural disasters, for the 3 jurisdictions before the program. So that's American Samoa, Guam, and the Northern Marianas. The Pacific jurisdictions don't have unemployment insurance. So we're going to use the process in where the Commonwealth Department of Labor works with the U.S. Department of Labor and issues unemployment checks in the same process that they did under FEMA. And we're glad that got approved, and the governor has received his notice. When checks will be issued, Tomas, that program is going to be administered by the Commonwealth government. So really their decision when, I know Secretary Benavente is requiring, for example, one of the requirements may be that you need a passport to get as evidence of some must be citizenship. And we got some requests for why. And I said, because the Secretary of Labor is requiring that, but if you talk to her, she may be able to find a way around that. Instead of a passport, if you've never had a passport, your birth certificate or maybe a Commonwealth Election Commission voting card, right? Because you have to be a U.S. citizen to vote, something like that. But she will work out an alternative. I don't doubt that.
Yeah, I'm going to just read off here the documents. And the CNMI Department of Labor says that for both programs, the documents include certification letter from the employer, a valid ID with photo, passport, copies of the latest paycheck stubs, and social security number. So those are part of the requirements you're talking about. And speaking of eligibility, you've been at the forefront of this advocacy with regards to the CW workers here in the NMI. You released early last week saying that CW workers should also obtain unemployment benefits. Can you draw that out on where your advocacy is and what the progress on that call looks like right now?
All right. So the law does not specifically qualify workers, individuals who are in the United States with a work visa, but it also does not disqualify them. So we're pleading our case. We're arguing a case with the Department of Labor here, saying we don't find anything in the law. Unfortunately, see, this is unemployment insurance is a state program, and if they follow the state models, there may be a problem because if you, for example, furlough or lay off a worker, a visa worker, that worker has to leave the United States unless within that 60-day period they're able to find a new employer. But in our case in the Marianas, under the CW program, it takes more than 60 days to hire a CW. You have to go through, get a wage certification from the TLC, from the U.S. Department of Labor. Then you have to announce the position for 21 days, and then you have to submit it to USCIS. And now that everybody's on the lockdown, you're not going to be able to do that. So we have asked, USCIS for some kind of reprieve. The unfortunate thing, there were, I think, over a dozen issues that we tried to include, not just the Marianas, but other members, include in the CARES Act, that were immigration-related issues, and those were considered poison bills. So they couldn't. No immigration-related issue was included in the CARES Act, whether it's H-1B or J-1, H-1A even, a CW for that matter. But the law does not specifically include, nor does it specifically exclude. So we're arguing that CWs are covered. If not, we have legislation to that effect, but it's going to take a lot of work to get that done.
All right, and I wanted to shift gears a little bit. I know we were chatting right before you went live about United Airlines and signing into the CARES Act program. As we know now, there are, commercial passengers are flying in or out of the NMI. You said in that online post you're glad that they signed on to the CARES Act program, and you asked that the airlines to get this assistance be required to fly to rural areas to ensure the United flies to the Marianas. And so can you share a bit more about that for folks who might just be learning of this right now?
Yeah, so, we understood early on that there was going to be some relief for airlines, for example, and others in the hospitality industries, but airline in particular. And so on March 18, we wrote to the speaker and asked that whatever support is provided nationally to key travel industries must, however, mandate that they're not allowed to use that support solely where it is most profitable to do so, leaving remote and rural areas orphaned. And so this language, not exactly the way we wrote, but language to this effect is in the bill, it's in the law, that airlines have to continue flying and serving areas unless they get a waiver for some reason. And so there is a way out for any airline, not just United, to discontinue flying to a destination for some time. But United, if it opens up, and I don't know when it's going to open up, flights, when it's going to be, when I flew out of Saipan, uh, man, there was the flight from Narita to Dallas was, we were like 12 feet away from one another. It was just that little passengers. But the Saipan flight too was in full. The Guam to Tokyo flight was in full. So, they may not be able to fly daily, but they would. There will be a demand that they fly and will still profit. But they can't completely ignore us.
Right. Now, Congressman, I wanted to shift to what's happening here locally as well. We know that the CNMI government is trying to reduce its costs in 50%. People are getting furloughed. Of course, we got this news yesterday about the assistance. How concerned should people be about the economic situation and your view as the Congressman?
Look, we are now in a recession in the nation, no doubt about it. And in the 2009 financial crisis, the stimulus money, the ARA money, and the other parts of ARA, there were like 3 or 4 parts to ARA, that actually provided a jolt, an electrical shock for that matter to the economy. And the economy was able to get up and pick up. And on this one, it's going to take much longer and more effort. It's going to take longer and more effort. Look, businesses are shut down. DC is a ghost town. Today is a Wednesday, and usually Wednesday is the busiest week of the day of the week for Congress, because you have organizations and all kinds of lobbies and but primarily national organizations coming in and meeting with members. And so, but today is it's empty here in the building. On my way out, I'm sure the Capitol Police are going to say, "Sir, you're the only one here again." But so it's really going to take a while for the nation, particularly for the Marianas, because we need to get airlines flying, we need to get passengers or tourists to come back in, and that's going to take a lot of confidence building, where there has to be trust that this thing. So I'm thinking maybe until a vaccine is developed. But the different predictions are, well, like Dr. Fauci said, we can set a timetable for this. The virus is going to set our timelines for this, and so it's going to be a while.
Right.
And so, in this CARES Act 2, we're going to have money again for governments, state governments, and I'm trying to get money in there for more money for teachers and students. The Northern Marianas College just got $1.8 million, and that's just a down payment to what they expect. The government, Commonwealth, gets $36 million. They just have to now sort of submit in their information, including their banking account information. The first half of the money can be here in the Marianas in 24 hours, for example, and the rest by April 24. In the CARES Act, originally there was none of this, but the Republicans' bill had no money for state and territorial governments, but we got that fixed in negotiation. There is money for teachers and schools. Again, like I said, Northern Marianas College got awarded $1.8 million last week. Half the money is for students to pay for distance learning and also for food, housing, healthcare, and childcare costs. And we expect the U.S. Department of Education, we've been trying to get information from them. It's like pulling teeth from, but they would have to announce soon. They have 30 days to announce how much PSS will get to replace what the Commonwealth failed to give PSS this year and pay for teacher salary. I think they furloughed 730 or almost 800 teachers.
Right.
And we're fighting again. We've put in our request on to get a program similar to EduJobs like we did in 2010, where we had money for PSS exactly at the time when the government refused to give PSS money. So we got PSS enough money for 2.5 months for teachers' salaries. And so school opened on time. And then after that, the local money came in. Look, PSS is getting over twice the amount of money in federal grants, in federal money, than they do local money.
And so I want to get your thoughts on that. You alluded to it. We know that the injunction came in and the governor releasing that long video about, talking about the retirees and the public school system, the board listing their names. What are your thoughts on that when you see this developing here?
I thought that was unfair. The injunction is being filed because it's the law. But it was unfair to say to the retirees, I will pay you if PSS withdraws the injunction. He's not giving PSS any money right now. And he's also not giving the retirees, he's got the retirees 25%. So there's some issue there, right? I mean, our money problems did not start with COVID-19. Our money problems started even before Super Typhoon U2. Our legislature projected a budget that was unheard of in our history, $290 million. That's really, and it's all based on the casino, primarily on the casino, which hasn't been able to complete its rooms. It's unfortunate, but it's real also. So, it's factual. So, yeah, so using one group against another is just, very unfortunate. And many of our retirees depend on that money. Some of them are here, for example, in the mainland, and I'm aware of what they're going through because of messages and emails that, are asking me, how long is this going to take? And I really have no answer for them. I don't know. This is a Commonwealth matter. The governor, how he spends this $36 million, there are some restrictions to it, but there's a way in which he could figure it out and use this money for that, and then, use local money for, it just opens up a lot of things for him. But again, the call is his.
Congressman, I wanted to bring in some of our viewer questions that we're getting on the live stream. Some people are asking about a date when the stimulus checks will come up for the CNMI. These are the viewers asking this question. They want to know.
Okay, again, that's going to be between the Commonwealth government, the governor, and the U.S. Department of Labor. The government of Guam has already signed an agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor. As of today, I don't have information that the Commonwealth government now has signed an agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor. They have to sign that agreement and set up a system. U.S. Department of Labor will have to approve the system, the process. But if the Secretary of Labor, Ms. Benavente, follows what she did in Typhoon Yutu, that should satisfy U.S. Department of Labor. It should satisfy Treasury. The money should start flowing. But we still, as far as I know, we still have no agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor, and that cannot start unless we start the drawdowns.
All right, thank you, Congressman, for clarifying that. I now wanted to shift about your talks with the region here. First, what's your communication like with the CNMI governor and the task force? Is there talks there happening, and on what basis?
No.
They haven't been communicating with your office directly?
No, the governor wrote me a letter several weeks ago to me a list of things he wants me to do, which is, he made his emergency my emergency. Everything from, his lack of money for supplies, CUC payments, the retirement fund, everything that's a problem, he passed it on to me. He documented it and passed it on. Look, I got money for him. I got some money for him. I didn't get him altogether. The money that the Commonwealth will receive will be over 100 million just as of now. And we're still trying to double down on that in the next CARES Act. I don't know. Some people say there will be one more and that's it. Some people say there will be CARES 4, 5, 6, and 7. We continue to use, I continue to use my connections. I continue to use what I learned very good, very early on how to get things done. Never give up, never stop asking. It's embarrassing. But hey, when I got elected, I brought with me to Congress knee pads because and I've used several I've overused several. And there's times when you just gotta beg and get on your knees and say, man, the people I represent need this. And so I want to make sure that people don't people have access to to health insurance. I want to make sure that people have food to eat. I want to make sure our students continue to learn, and that they get their school meals. I'm glad that today, again, they started their meal to go program because they had meals and then they stopped. But it's important. Many of these kids, 60% of our students fall under the poverty line. There's no food at home. And so they get their nutrition from school meals. And I don't back off from that argument, that reality. So I have a little bit of confrontation with the Commissioner of Education, but I was just arguing that my teachers, that students need their meals because the PSS is flush with school meal money, flushed.
Are you able to give a dollar amount on that? How much money are we talking about for the school?
No, I can't give you a dollar amount, but they even got additional money to address the additional cost of COVID-19. And they always have extra money so that, and they're able to even build cafeterias as they go along, year to year. And those
All right.
For
Thank you, Congressman. I know we're pressed for time, especially since it's late over in DC where you're at right now. I wanted to wrap up our conversation by talking about you working with the other delegates to gather support for the territories. Obviously, we were speaking to your constituents in Saipan, Rota, Tinian, and the rest of the NMI right now. But you know, ground viewers also want to know, how's it working with the delegate from Guam and also the delegates from the other territories? What does that look like?
Good. You know, we get to write delegate letter as a group, as you know, we're, um, I we don't agree with everything that every one of us has. So when we write a joint letter, for example, you know, we put in 3-4 items at the most we choose. So I would pick one item for myself, and I would try to sell my other items. Hey, this benefits you as well, right? I mean, and you know, so but sometimes they said no. I insist that this is an item I want to include in the letter. We're legislators, and when we legislate, we of course negotiate, and then negotiating requires compromising. So we try to get the best up front, and we have been successful so far. Mr. San Nicolas is Guam's delegate. I won't speak for him, but I know that I've worked with him, just as I have worked with the delegate from American Samoa. She's on the other side of the aisle, but on issues we agree on, we work together. On issues that we don't have agreement on, we try to find a common ground. There's always space for that.
That's good to hear that you're communicating with them. Congressman, I know we're in the middle of a pandemic. I know that there's a lot of questions about the economy and health. I can't let you leave though without asking you about the reelection. Have you made a decision yet on whether or not to run it?
Actually, yeah. When I went home, one of the things that I thought I was going to do was meet with my committee. I did talk to my wife a little bit about it because she's the first person I talk to about what I do. But you know, I have filed my papers with the Federal Election Commission. I filed it since last year so I could raise some money. I've always, Tomas, made my announcement official when I file my papers, my candidacy papers with the Commonwealth Election Commission. But I am presuming that I'm going to run for another term. And having said that, I'm also going to say that I'm not going to be like other members who are here for 30 years. We have a member who's been here for 50 years, served under 9 presidents. No, that's not for me. I spent too much time away from home, and you know, that's the biggest sacrifice I make with this job. Besides the time it takes me to go home, the new United schedule takes me 39 hours to get home. That's the short route. The route through Honolulu is 44 hours. And that's difficult. That also takes a toll on a person. So, but otherwise, I'm really blessed. I've had this honor representing the Northern Marianas here. I am so privileged. You know, I'm so grateful. I can never say thank you enough to the people who placed their trust in me. In fact, was talking about working with Mr. San Nicolas, for example. He's going to introduce a bill probably this week or early next week in pro forma session that we have been working with him about our federal judges. and so he's going to drop that bill. I've let him know that I'll co-sponsor it, and hopefully try and get it if we can in a CARES Act bill. It's going to be difficult, but we're going to try.
Can you share a little bit more about that? What does that mean with regards to the federal judges?
Yeah, we're just trying to say, look, our judges, for example, appoint a bankruptcy trustee, and they make that appointment to someone who serves a longer term than they do. So we're just trying to make some parity, some fairness into the judges' terms. Some judges are appointed for 10 years and serve 14, for example. We want to make sure that that's counted, so it just improves their situation and gives them a little bit of a guarantee towards what do they do after being judges, or if they don't get a second term or a third term. I'm very happy with our federal judge. I'm been very blessed. I also happen to like the Guam judge who comes and works in the Marianas, for example. She handled the retirement fund case, and I think it was a fair decision what she came out with, working with the late Governor Enos. But yeah, so we're trying to give them some kind of parity.
All right, thank you, Congressman. And just to wrap up our interview, what are your words to the people of the NMI during this difficult time?
Yeah, it's hard, except for those probably who went through World War II. This is probably the most difficult time that I know that I and those in my generation experience. Of course, we had some who go to war in our lifetime. I have never gone to war, but yeah, and there's a very simple thing that we can do for ourselves and for others, is to stay at home. As much as you can, stay at home, keep your social distance, wear a mask, they say, but yeah, isolate, stay at home, keep your social distance, because the less we interact in a reckless manner, then this virus will continue to pass on among ourselves. And you're not doing this for others, you're doing this also for yourself and your family. So yeah, and look, I hope the Marianas, we can avoid the peak. Guam also, you guys are all in my prayers. And I'm here. I'll continue to work hard and work hard for you. That's why you sent me to DC. So may God bless us all, the Northern Marianas. And because this is KUAM, may God bless also our brothers and sisters from Guam. And God bless this United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That you just heard from U.S. Congressman for the NMI, Kilili Camacho Sablan. Congressman, we hope you can make it back home safely when that's possible. And we want to thank our viewers, as you said, both in the Northern Mariana Islands and in Guam. My name is Tomas Manglona, reporting here on Saipan. Thank you for joining us on KUAM.